Welcome to the Office of Student Services Media Library, brought to you by your host, Mr. Pulliam.
Hey guys, Mr. Pulliam here, and today I want to take some time to talk to you guys about the health effects of screen time. I know that for myself personally, over this break, there's been a lot more opportunities to be on my phone, playing video games on my TV or my Nintendo Switch, and I thought it would be important and a good time to talk about how spending more time on a screen can affect your health positively and negatively. So here we go. So first off, the essential question for today is, can screen time be bad for us? And then the learning objectives are: identify research trends related to the health impact of screen time, reflect on the nature of your own screen time use and how it compares to parents and teens generally. And then finally, to identify specific steps to be taken and potential challenges to making your screen time more healthy. So first off, we're going to watch a video from KQED and PBS called Above the Noise. During this video, I want you to take notes on your phone or take notes on a sticky note or just some things that you want to remember. And specifically, I want you to identify 3 key takeaways. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Have you ever kept track of how much time you spend looking at a screen? Like, actually logged what you're doing and for how long? Well, that's what I did over the last few days. And on an average day, I spent about an hour on Instagram, way too much time on Twitter, over 3 hours, and a little over an hour or so on Netflix. So in total, I'm spending over 5 hours every day in front of a screen. And that's not counting text messages or listening to music. That's literally a quarter of my day, every day. So what's all this screen time doing to me? Well, I asked who I always ask, Google. And the results fell into 2 buckets. The first bucket blamed smartphones, video games, and social media for increases in depression, anxiety, and even obesity. The second bucket said that screen use might help improve how we feel about ourselves by keeping us connected with people. So, what does the scientific research say? Is all this screen time really bad for us? Okay, first things first. Screen time as a term isn't that useful because it doesn't really tell you what you're doing on screen. It's kind of like if someone asks you what you had for lunch, and you say, food. That doesn't really provide any real info. And not all screen time is created equal. Context matters. Spending 4 hours creating a video for YouTube is way different than spending 4 hours watching cat videos. How you feel about and how you process each of those situations won't be the same. So lumping them under screen time doesn't make much sense. If researchers want to figure out what spending so much time on our screens is doing to us, they need to break down a few variables. What's the specific screen activity? Are we passively scrolling and looking at pictures, or are we commenting and posting? How long and how often are we on the screen? Because there's so much to untangle, the research is kind of all over the place. You can find individual studies that support and contradict just about every conclusion linking screen time and health. To quote the director of the National Institutes of Health, the research is quite limited, has not been conclusive, and further study is needed. That's why it's crucial to look over a body of research to identify trends. All right, so let's get to it. Our digital lives can take a physical toll on us, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm usually on my phone right before I go to bed, even though multiple studies have shown that leads to bad sleep. And we all know what can happen without enough sleep. Concentrating on things is hard, you can get irritable. I sort of walk around like a zombie, and sometimes me no make when I talk I. Sense? And it's not just me. In 1991, 26% of teens were getting less than the doctor recommended 7 hours of sleep a night. Today, that number is over 40%. Now, that doesn't mean you can place the blame on screens, but that same study did find that teens who spent 5 hours a day online were 50% more likely to not sleep enough than those who only spent an hour online each day. I'm skeptical, though. Who are those people that say they only spend an hour online a day, and why are they lying to researchers? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. Some researchers even use the term addiction when talking about how we interact with our devices. Whether it's video games or waiting for a like on an Instagram post, we get caught in short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops where we get a quick pleasure boost but then constantly crave the next one. Now, there's a lot of debate on whether or not this stuff is a bona fide addiction like gambling. And if you want to learn more about that, check out our video that looks into whether or not video game addiction is real. One study in 2017 found that the more time people spend in front of screens, the more it affected their well-being. Their chances of developing depression and suicidal thoughts went up. It was all the ammo the news media needed to fuel the panic about screen time. But that one study is just one study. Another group of researchers came along, looked at the same data and asked, is there really a link between screen time and depression? And if so, how strong is that link? They found that screen time is correlated with depression, but that correlation is really small. In fact, it was the same as eating potatoes regularly. The correlation between wearing glasses and depression was even stronger. And we're not seeing headlines warning about potatoes and glasses ruining an entire generation. So maybe screen time in general is less important than we think. The connection between screen time and health gets a little bit clearer when you look at how people are using their screens. It's not just about quantity, it's also about the quality. Passive screen time, things like watching TV or scrolling through your Instagram feed, is usually associated with the negative stuff, like depression, moodiness, anxiety, and even laziness. Active screen time, stuff that engages you physically or cognitively, can actually be helpful. Screens also allow us to stay connected with people. With technology like FaceTime, I could talk to my best friend who's on the other side of the country right now. Now, sure, some people have to deal with feeling overwhelmed because of drama or feeling pressure to only post a highlight reel of themselves to make them look good to others. But in many studies, a majority of teens say that social media mainly helps the relationships they already have with their friends. And almost 60% have met a new friend, like me. I just recently visited a homie in Canada who I've known online for like 7 years, so that was pretty awesome. Shout out to Shannon. And when you look at stuff like multiplayer video games, Twitch streams, or Reddit, wandering around online allows you to find your tribe. If you don't quite fit in where you live or you live in a small or isolated community, quality screen time might be essential to keeping you sane. So, what do you think? What screen activities do you value, and what do you want to cut out? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, we want to give a shout out to Common Sense Education, who we collab with on this episode. Thanks a lot, guys. And we have 2 more episodes with them coming out, so stay tuned for those.
Okay, welcome back, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that video. A couple of key vocabulary words that I want to talk about moving forward are active use, which means contributing online via posts, comments, or other forms of communication and expression. So this is what the speaker was talking about in the video when he was referencing making comments or likes on Instagram or creating a video for YouTube. That is active use of technology and screen time. Meanwhile, passive use is what we all have a tendency to do when we're bored, and that's scroll through online content without reacting to it. So, for example, that's just scrolling through TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or just watching random cat videos on YouTube. And that's where we can get in trouble. So now, I want you guys to just take a minute. You guys can pause me when I'm done talking here. Think about your day from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. What does your screen time look like during that time period? How do you use, the different devices, so your phone, your computer, your TV, that you have access to? Are you using it actively or passively? And then I want you to think about this and keep your answers to yourself. Normally, I would give you a checklist to fill out here, but since we're not in school, I don't have that. So just think about it for a minute, and then we'll come back. Okay. So I want to give you guys some numbers. So some observations. So this chart is a percentage of people who feel their screen time is too much. So in 2016, 61% of teens thought their screen time was too much. And now only 39% of teens think their screen time is too much. Meanwhile, in 2016, only 29% of parents thought their screen time was too much. And now 52% of parents think their screen time is too much. So it seems over time that younger people are becoming more okay with the amount of time they spend on screens, while older people are realizing that it might not be all it's cracked up to be. So here's some more data. So several studies have found a correlation between emotional well-being and active screen time use. And yet, this is how most teens and tweens are using screen time. So the majority of them, 39%, are consuming it passively, which means they're just scrolling through stuff. They're not really doing anything. Meanwhile, 26% are using it for communication purposes. 25% are using it interactively, which means they're using it actively, which active use is what we talked about earlier. And then 3% is using it for creation purposes. So they're making content, they're making videos, pictures, memes, anything that gets your brain moving. And then there's another 7% that uses it in other ways. Next, 45% of parents and 39% of teens feel addicted to their phones. So I'm a believer that technology addiction is a real thing, and that is something to be aware of and be conscious of. So how often, so one of these lists is how often parents check their phones. One is how often teens check their phones. So several times a day, 91% of parents check their phones several times a day. 22% check it 3 to 4 times a day. 27% check it hourly. And 42% check it a few times in an hour. 8% check it once a day or less, and 1% just don't know. Meanwhile, with teens, 89% of teens check their phones several times a day. 20% check it 3 to 4 times. 26% check it hourly, and 43% check it a few times in an hour. Meanwhile, 9% of teens check their phone once a day or less. Next, the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests all screens be turned off at least 30 minutes before bedtime. And yet, that's not really reality. So, this chart describes how long before bed teens put away their phones. 40% of teens wait within 5 minutes of bed. 70% put them away within 30 minutes. And 26% put them away over 30 minutes before bed. Now, I know I'm really bad about this too, guys, but I can notice a difference. I've gone through a couple stages in life where I would keep my phone away from my bed, where I would charge it not directly by my bed. And during those times, I seemed to sleep a lot better. Meanwhile, when I would sleep with it right beside my bed, I didn't get as good of sleep because I would be on it until right before bed. And then when I close my eyes after using a phone, and I don't know if this is true for any of you guys, I kind of still see like the light. The light still pops up in different spaces because my eyes are readjusting to being taken off that blue light. So I want you guys to think about how you use your phone before bed and how long before bed you are on it. Next, it's also recommended that phones be put away outside of arm's reach during sleep time, which is what I just talked about. And yet, 12% of parents have their phone in bed with them. 29% of teens have their phone in bed with them. And then on top of that, 39% of teens have their phone within reach of bed, and 62% of parents have their phone within reach. So sometimes it's just better to plug it in on the other side of the room and then get it in the morning, guys, because when you're sleeping, you don't really need it there anyway, right? I mean, you're just knocked out, okay? And it's better and healthier for you. So, guys, just going forward, I want you to think about how to find balance in our digital lives. During this time, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to be on your phone, to be watching TV. But there's also opportunities to be doing other things. Personally, graduate school kind of made it really hard to love to read because it was all academic reading. Now I'm using this time to find my love for reading and to dive back into books that I haven't read in a while. And I challenge you to do the same thing. Open a book, go for a walk, go for a run, go outside, pick up sticks. Just do a variety of different things, guys, that you wouldn't normally have the chance to do because you'd be too busy. You'd be too tired from school. I know that I'm trying to use my time more wisely, and I've even made a schedule for how I'm going to use my time, and that has cut down on my digital use by 10% in the last week. I challenge you to keep track of your screen time using the app in the iPhone, or finding a similar app in an Android if you're an Android user, and then just kind of seeing how that changes and shifts over time. as you put more of a focus on not using screen time. So guys, once again, thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Go Bearcats!
Thank you for watching another digital lesson from the Office of Student Services Media Library. And don't forget, it's a great day to be a Paint Valley Bearcat.